You know she's getting filled by some black stud. You know there's some black fucking bull that's just filling her with cock meat, giving her the real fuck she deserves. Some big black bull just filling her with cock meat.
Oh, that never gets old. That never gets old. Boogie's big black bull rant will never get fucking old. Oh. You know, an old girlfriend of mine once said to me, you know, when are you going to grow up? When is this sort of thing, referring to a similar joke, when is this sort of thing going to stop being so damn funny to you? And I just kind of looked at her and was like, I don't know, but I hope never. God, she was a bitch. There's some women I look back that I was with, and I look back with some fondness, some regret, sort of thing. And some I look back and I'm like, fuck was I doing? Fuck was I doing with this bitch? I I remember one girlfriend I had that was literally such a monumental pain in the ass. Like, you'd get a text from her and it would be like, oh God, what now? Like, just always with this bitch. She was so fucking hot though. God, she was quite the slamming hottie. And quite the fucking little demon in the sack. So that's why I put up with that a lot longer than I should have. Till finally one day I kind of was like, you know, I fucking hate you. Like, I really. Oh. Duke Tumwater in the chat says, I've been listening to your show a lot lately, Backloff, and it's really been helping me stave off my unemployment-induced boredom and feelings of isolation. Yeah, I mean, I've been out of work for these past 3 weeks now. I go back to work tomorrow, which I'm both happy and anxious about, because partly because of all... I'm anxious about everything but work, but all that's going on right now. Obviously, I'm a little anxious about stuff. I did not get as much done on that writing project as I wanted to do. Part of that was my fault. Part of that was I let myself get distracted by too many other things, you know. My dad or buddies or something throughout these 3 weeks, like, hey, you want to go out to eat, you know, or you want to hang out, or it's like, okay, you know, just getting distracted when I should be working on my project. And then this past week, obviously, I had a bit of a different project that fell into my lap. Did a bit of a different mess to clean up, as you can see. Thank you, K&W Tires, for deciding to park a fucking Econoline van in the back of my car. Appreciate it. Appreciate you butt fucking my life like that. That's great. I actually left a fucking review on their Facebook page too. It's so petty too, but I was like, yeah, I didn't exactly appreciate you parking a Econoline van into my Econoline Ford truck into my fucking car. 1 out of 5 stars. Would not recommend. Lordy. So I guess we'll watch some stuff. We'll watch some fucking cringe. Watch some goofy shit. I don't know. Let's see. Going through, looking through some stuff. I was watching some classic fucking. Remember Ross, the pedo guy from like 2-3 years ago? That like Medicare and what was the other guy's name? Exceptional Detective or whatever his name was. All those guys were ripping on him. MD Hero got in on that at one point. That was a grand old fucking time. Duke of Tumwater. I did get a new job though, and I should be starting soon. Well, congratulations. I hope that works out well for you. Alright. Let's see. What did we want? Shall we listen to a little bit of Davis and let's see. A little bit of Davis and Hadron. That might be fun. That might be fun, chat.
And I'm roughly as well informed as everybody else.
Okay, we're gonna skip ahead.
And you
we're
need
pretty far ahead.
this mold button.
We're gonna hop a solid 36 minutes in. 35:49 to be exact. And we'll go ahead and listen to Davis and Hadron tell us how they should run society. We're not going to go ahead and bother screen sharing. I mean, there's really nothing to see here. Davis is better for Beck lost blood pressure than Owen. Well, I mean, I don't have to watch Davis, like, fucking beat up children. Or, not children, I'm sorry, animals, I meant to say. I have to fucking watch Davis beat up animals. I mean, to Davis's credit, he seems to treat Space Dog pretty good. So, you know. Not pure fucking evil. Like, Owen is a lot more evil than Davis. Owen is a lot better at it than Davis, too. So, like, Owen's causing a lot more harm than Davis. He's just, like, thank God in heaven, like, Davis doesn't have any children, for example. You know what I mean? Like, Owen Benjamin, you sit there and you watch it, and it's fucking, it's a lot more enraging, because it's like, you know, there's, like, innocent children caught in this. There's all those fucking animals getting abused all the time. You know, I mean, most of his audience, of his pay pigs, are just every bit as shitty as him, but there are some genuinely good people that just don't see through it for whatever reason. They have a blind spot. So, I mean, you know, like, Davis is a fucking narcissist, and Davis is a fucking, like, goofy fucking idiot and all, but, and don't get me wrong, his streams are a lot more boring because they don't have a channel, you know, chopping them down as well as Milker Nation's doing for Owen. But, like, Davis is not as bad as Owen, or at the very least, he's not as dangerous. Let me put it that way. He's not causing as much harm, so it's not as aggravating, but as you can see, like, this is, you know, this is all we got for a Windows capture. It's the same image the whole video, so we're not going to do Windows capture. Because that way, if I don't have Windows capture on, if Davis gets too boring, I can start looking at Kim Possible porn. You know, start looking at Misty from Pokemon porn. You know, getting the old Vine Whip. You know, if he gets that boring. I'm not saying I'm going to. Just saying, I like to have the option open. You know what I mean? So.
In the military. But so there's some conflict culturally in there. But they are legally unique. They are not stuck with the Western tradition.
I'm not sure what he's talking about there real quick. Duke Tumwater says, Owen's just fascinating because he went from being featured in an Adam Sandler movie and rubbing shoulders with Joe Rogan to becoming a deranged cult leader who rants about the Jews. I mean, Davis went from a sustainable living with his online shenanigans to, you know, jack fucking shit. Where is he at on Patreon? I'm just curious. Patreon. So he is at $103 a month on Patreon. From 16 patrons. So, I mean, he went from making, you know, not high on the hog, but livable money, and was still rising to where he's at now. So, you know, not as spectacular a crater because he didn't have his fall to far, but far to fall, but nonetheless.
Israel is an extremely unique case, and their example does not apply to us. And so if you tried to ban porn, well, for what do you mean ban porn? Okay, you're going to ban the production of porn. All right, well, the Hollywood porn industry moves to Thailand. They're still making porn, they're still selling it.
I actually agree with him. Banning porn is fucking idiotic. Like I know, oh well, Israel did it. Well, I mean, Israel's a shitbag country. Lots of other countries don't have fucking freedom. It doesn't mean we shouldn't. So I'm gonna skip ahead because I don't really have an issue with his position on that. And again, I'm just trying to find something interesting to watch and BS about with you fine folks.
Guys that join the alt-right, that join whatever, right?
Real quick in the chat, Second Chief says Owen might end up wrecking Davis if he gets Patreon shut down. Yeah, look, as much as the people at Patreon are acting, as much as it would be very, very much a sense of justice for them to get what's coming to them, I get that. A lot of people are going to be hurt, though. A lot of innocent people are going to be hurt, though, if Patreon goes down. So, like, you know, Owen's Bears are fucking suing them, and they're actually doing better than you'd think. The way they're doing it, as I understand it, Patreon has a clause where you can't sue them, you have to be in arbitration with them. And in California, arbitration, they have to pay up to the company has to pay up to the first $250 of arbitration or something like that. So each person that brings them in arbitration is basically like almost like frivolous lawsuits, just bleeding them dry. And Patreon tried to go in front of the judge and be like, look, they're abusing this. And the judge was like, well, tough shit. You know, this is your contract with them. Suck a dick. So they're doing pretty good against Patreon. That said, though, a lot of innocent people are going to be hurt if Patreon goes down. At the very least, in the short term. There are many people who make their living doing things that are supported through Patreon. And, you know, by no means are all of them shitty people. I never made my living off Patreon, but when I had a Patreon, I was getting $50, $60 a month, you know, up and down a little bit, but that was about it. So, I don't know. Like I said, I get one to take it down because they're a very shitty, very shady, you know, tech company, and they're doing all sorts of censorship and all. I get it, but gonna be some collateral damage there. I'm not exactly enthused about that. Next point, somebody says, by the way, do you have a subscribe star? I don't have a Patreon either right now. I don't have either one. I'm not doing this regularly enough where I feel confident doing any kind of Patreon or Patreon-like service right now. I don't feel good about collecting Patreon money for such erratic streaming. I mean, obviously I've done a lot of streaming here lately, but that's because I've had off. You know what I mean? The moment I'm at work and they start banging away 50, 60 hours, I'm not going to feel like even doing a Saturday stream, let alone... So he says, Davis is pretty much the only trad cat I know that doesn't want to ban porn. I mean, let's be real. Davis has never been 100% on a lot of these trad cat positions. He just likes the aesthetics of it and you know, wants to be king and all this other kind of bullshit. But to his credit, Davis isn't as fucking retarded as a lot of the trad cats on many political issues, at least.
Even the NRX, I mean, for crying out loud, Curtis Yarvin is a genius. Look at the sort of people that joined the NRX. I'll tell you about it later, Adrian, if you don't know already. But it's the same garbage. It's the sort of guys that have accomplished absolutely nothing, that have no close ties to anybody. No.
The sort of guys that have accomplished nothing and have no close ties to anybody. Is that so, Davis? Those sort of guys. Those guys who have accomplished nothing and have no close ties to anybody. Yeah, we wouldn't want to be like those guys, would we, Davis?
No community, and they just want to LARP. They want to LARP. They want to do this.
They just want to LARP. Those guys just want to LARP, right, Davis? But not you. Not you.
And so anything that might succeed, they will make sure it doesn't. Because any right-wing movement that succeeded would have no use for most of these males.
Yeah, well, they haven't cultivated
So
anything.
did Davis just admit that he sabotages movements on purpose? or is it just, or is that just pure lack of self-awareness? Because is that why you always end up in movements that turn to shit, or get thrown out of movements? Is that why? I mean, what have you cultivated, Davis? You know, pretending to speak Latin is not a fucking is not having cultivated yourself, Davis. Why don't you try cultivating some gainful employment?
Of themselves. I mean, in my case, it was really hard to try to tell some of these guys, like, what, you're 40 years old and you've accomplished nothing. You deliver pizzas for a living. Not that there's anything wrong with delivering pizzas, but if you're 40 years old and you haven't cultivated a skill, you haven't, like.
Is that what you said to Davis? Like, you understand, Davis is just about 40 years old. And he doesn't even deliver pizzas for a living. Because that would imply that he is making a living. That would imply he has a job. No, he is collecting $103 on Patreon a month. And I guess mommy's picking up the rest of the slack.
What have you been doing for the last 2 decades,
Is she like passively aggressively like shit talking him? Or does she really just have no fucking self-awareness like him?
What? Yeah, we're not talking about the guy that delivers pizzas and then has a small home where he has a bunch of tools and he fixes his own motorcycles and he can craft items. I don't know, like screws. He can make screws at home with it.
He can make screws at home. The way he said craft items to it sounded like he was thinking of fucking. Isn't there a crafting system in Fallout? I don't know. I never played Fallout. It kind of looks like shit to me. But it sounded like he was talking about a crafting system in a game. Kitty. He makes screws. What? Oh, because that's where the real money is. Making screws. Oh. Oh my. That's right, Seneca Chief. Hadron is 40/50s with no accomplishments, no kids, and sells soy candles. Well, she needs to get into the screw making business. Apparently, that's where all the money is. People are apparently making screws in their garage. It's amazing, too, because it's like he pretends like he knows how the fucking world works, but. So he says, what is it with these people and the whole craftsman LARPing? Owen does it too, and it's so clear these people have no experience making anything beyond hammering a few planks together. Here's what it is. It boils down to this. These people are all, on an emotional level, fucking 14. They are at a teenager level. Like the way most of us were when you were 14, 15, 16, 17 even. When you were just trying to figure out what kind of man you were, that sort of thing. A lot of people will get into LARPing about something that they feel makes them like they're emotionally they are teenagers pretending to be men. And that's why they have this cartoon, well, what's a man do? well, a man makes screws in his garage. Like, sounds like what a 10-year-old thinks a man do. That's what a man does right there. Makes screws in his garage. Just imagining that guy with my Lamborghini here in my garage. Like, look at my books in my garage. Like, it's a childish thing, okay? Owen is emotionally a teenager. He's a fucking idiot. He's a self-loathing closet homosexual. And also a sociopath and a narcissist. And so he is desperate to create this illusion of being a man. Roosh, it was the same thing. When you read Roosh's writings, it's very clear that all the pussy chasing was him trying to look like a man. And now he's just chosen a different route. You see Roosh bragging about, like, oh, look at me, I used a wheelbarrow for the first time. And it's like, you're fucking 45 and you used a wheelbarrow for the first time. I used a wheelbarrow when I was like fucking 6. Like, what are you doing? But no, a man works in his garden with a wheelbarrow. That's how a child thinks. Remember, Davis always thought he was scoring some points by making fun of me because Beckloff likes Mega Man and Marvel and Nintendo. Put down the Nintendo, Beckloff. Well, no, I don't want to put down a Nintendo. Nintendo's fucking fun. I work hard for a fucking living. I like to have a little fun. And I'm well past the stage of fearing that playing a Mega Man game makes me look like a child, and I don't want to look like a child. I don't give a shit if I look like a child. I know what I am. But these people are... C.S. Lewis said it best. There's nothing so childish as desperately trying to appear grown up. You know? She says, doesn't Roosh live in his mom's house? I'm not sure. I know he did for a little while, which, I mean, I'm not even going to shit on him for that, because first of all, you know, my father lives with me. But also, you know, he moved overseas and he moves back to the States, so obviously that's going to be a lot easier to do if you at least have a place to crash temporarily, that sort of thing. You know, in these days, fuck, man, I mean... the economy the way it is and all. I mean, I'm not sure for most people it's really worth moving out of your parents until you're ready to get married, until you're ready to, you know, you got a spouse and you're ready to build your own permanent home life, kind of that kind of thing. I mean, yeah, it's nice living on your own, but it's expensive as fuck. I mean, I've always had a roommate. There was like 2 months where I didn't have a roommate, and I was desperately looking for another roommate there, because it's fucking expensive. It is expensive as fuck to live by yourself. And if you're rolling into money and you can afford it and you want it, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just saying, for a lot of people, it just really doesn't make any sense. And, you know, the only real reason I could see a lot of people want to do it so desperately is because I'm an adult and I support myself. All this, again, desperate to look like an adult. Which adults don't feel that way.
His whatever tool, his industrial lathe. I don't craft, guys. I do mechanics, but I don't craft. Not that guy. Not
He does mechanics. He builds Mazda Miatas with his bare hands. I love how everything Davis does, like, gets any level of, like, Davis is the kind of guy who learns to change his oil in his car and calls himself a mechanic. He's the kind of guy who bought a fucking saxophone and managed to learn how to play like 3 fucking seconds of a song and calls himself a musician. He's just always looking for an outfit.
Not that guy. That guy's got a lot going on. We're talking about the guy that just delivers pizzas and collects those Funko Pops.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Collects those Funko Pops again. And look, I'm not a big Funko Pop guy by any stretch. I've ended up with a couple of them over the years. I'll admit that. Mostly gifts. People. I think a large portion of their business is people picking them up because it's like, oh, so and so likes this thing, and here's a Funko Pop of it. I'll get it for whatever. Point is, though, I'll say this: if you like them, and it fucking make you happy and make you smile, fine. You got the money for it, fine. Fucking collect them. Go nuts. Have fun. But what? Oh well, the guy who just has a sad job and collects Funko Pops is a loser. Okay, again, so trapped in the surface level perception of it all. Well, it's a colorful, goofy thing, so it's childish. What about the guy who collects a stupid wall hanger sword and a stupid fucking stupid fucking ashtray? And what about the guy who's just so? What about the guy who's always bragging about how he's drinking and stuff like that? Isn't that a loser? What about the guy with no job who sits around smoking cigarettes and drinking whiskey like those are hobbies? Isn't that kind of sad?
this was a guy who had aspirations of finding a girl to marry, having a family. It's like, dude, if you're 40 years old and you have not built some kind of financial stability for yourself, you don't even have your own home, like, how do you think you're going to attract that? And how do you think you're going to support that? Like, you're telling me you want a conservative stay-at-home.
Is she talking about him? You're 40 years old and you want a wife and a family, but you've built nothing for yourself, so how do you think you're... Is she talking about the time Davis asked her for advice? Is that what this is?
Wife to be mother to your children, you can't even afford to move out of your parents' house. How are you going to make that happen?
Well, in all fairness, Davis did manage to move out of his parents' house by having mom pay his rent. Which, I'm not sure that's really better.
You know?
And so this is why I'm saying it's a good thing that the powers that be brought us Jordan Peterson and Kurt Doolittle and Richard Spencer. This is a...
Matt Forney in the chat. Wait, is this Hadron? Hadron is back. Hadron is back. Guess who's back? Back again. Hadron's back. Tell a friend. So he says, it's just a question of circumstances, is it? What do you like more? Can you get along with family? Or resources an issue? Oh, well, that's obviously an issue. I mean, like, you know, if you parents are just absolute fucking toxic shit and you can't wait to be rid of them, I mean, I understand that. You know, if I'm talking about if you have good family relations, you know. I mean, like I said, my father lives with me. And I'll even put it that way. My father lives with me. He helps me out a lot, but he lives with me just as much as I live with him. All right? We split household chores. That's the thing. We split bills. I mean, I paid basically every bill except the mortgage. You know, the only exception being if I'm having I'm waiting on unemployment for this past week, the past 2 weeks, I guess. So he picked up a couple of bills here. You know, I'll hit him back for that kind of thing. You know, and honestly, that's how it is if you have a good roommate. You know, good roommates help each other out when one of them's a little short. You know, as long as you're dealing with good people who aren't going to take advantage of you for it. But yeah, if you get along with family and all, I mean, you know, the move out right when you're 18 and get your own place, that is kind of an American thing. That's kind of an American in the 20th century, you know, in the height of our prosperity kind of thing. That's not a thing most cultures can avoid or afford. You know, most cultures, you know, somebody married off and then they moved out of their home. Then they started, you know, they just leave at an arbitrary date. Now, granted, particularly in antiquity, people were married off rather young. But yeah, that's again, there's a difference between living with your parents and living off your parents.
Good thing. Because, yes, the Empire is evil. But do you have any idea, like, how... Did you see what the Jedis did when they controlled the government? Did you see these morons?
Hey, at least guys like Jordan Peterson...
Watch another movie. It's amazing how basic bitch Davis is.
Peterson are waking young men up to the fact that they should be doing something with their lives.
Oh,
I mean, that's a good...
Matt Forney says, because the boomers were the first generation that could really afford it. Yeah, that's why boomers are all like, oh, well, I moved out right when I was 18 and I started my own way. And it's like, yeah, you got a job at a fucking factory right out of high school that in a year's time you could afford a down payment on a house. Like, must have been nice.
He was used by the system. See, that's the thing. Jordan Peterson says a lot of great stuff, but then right after he got that contract with, was it CMA, the Hollywood talent agency?
Oh yeah.
That's when he went political and started saying, no, don't organize politically, be an individual.
Yeah, he needed to stick with psychology. That was his strength.
That stuff is great, but God's giving him a second chance. He's not going to be famous again, but anyway.
Well, good. I don't think that's good for him.
Like, listen, he was not evil, okay? He was misguided, he wasn't evil, but he got played by the system and he was used to fragment the populace, right? And that's a good thing, because if these fat video game playing dorks, like, I wouldn't trust them to run a burger stand for me. Can you imagine these more?
I mean, Davis, granted, you're not fat. I'll give you that. You're in pretty decent shape for your age. You have that amazing diet of being too poor to afford food, so it's highly effective. But you sit around playing fucking Civ 5 and Fallout and Minecraft all the goddamn time. It's just always projection with him.
Morons running a government?
I don't want to. Things are bad enough as it is.
Do what they would do. They'd pass a law saying short skirts aren't allowed, but then they'd go up and they'd say, we're going to get rid of all the money for single mothers, well, except if it's like my sister, who she's not like other women. And he yelled at her once, and that's a kind of abuse. They're pussies. They're weak. They're not men. About? They can't break a horse. They can't fix a motorcycle. They are not men. I would rather have the liberals in charge, because at least they're good psychopathic families.
Davis, do you know what a man is? Again, you fucking 14-year-old. It's not someone who can break a horse or fix a motorcycle. Those are particular skills. A man, Davis, is someone who pulls his weight. A man, Davis, has a fucking job. He doesn't sit around on Twitch angry that the world did not accept his brilliant leadership. He acquires and holds down gainful employment. That is one of the first fucking things that a man does, Davis. And that's something you apparently can't or won't do. So forget about all the childish and simplistic and idiotic surface level ideas of what a man is. A man's turning a wrench. No, Davis. A man's paying his own bills.
vampires.
Well, I mean, it's not their fault. You know, they were never challenged as boys. They didn't become men.
Oh, please. I was never challenged as a boy. I made my own challenges. I
Well,
was...
How many dicks you can suck in a night? Was that one of them?
some can do that, and I think intelligence plays a role there. Those who are highly intelligent.
Hell's Harbinger can fix a horse and break a motorcycle. Oh, jeez. I've got a friend that bought a farm recently that they're working on, and it's the neighbors were making a bunch of steer last time I visited. Oh, I'm not a farming boy, okay? I felt
guess
really
you're not a
bad for
man
those
then,
bulls.
Davis.
They weren't going to be bulls.
Because a man goes on a farm and throws bales of hay onto the back of a truck. See, that's what I would say if I was 9. You fucking idiot.
For much longer.
Oh my. I do hope that there's some positive.
Oh, there's a lot of positive things about you, buddy, there, Adron. Carolina the dog says his challenge was how quickly he can win a game of soggy biscuits. Oh, that's fucking gross. That's how a man does it. Just ask Roos, a man can come in under 3 minutes. Not give a shit if the woman comes. Man gets his nut on so he can go fix a car.
Future for the right. It's so bleak right now.
Oh, screw the right. They're outer party. They want to be outer party. They love losing. You know what? Like, they're conservative is a tautology because there is no other type of conservative. What are you conserving?
Matt Forney says, funny to think it's been nearly 2 years since Irini went straight off the reservation, and he hasn't changed at all in any positive way. He's getting worse. Like, he's getting, like, just mentally worse. It's like he's bound and determined to catch up to fucking Owen's level of crazy. Terror House recent... Matt Forney in the chat says Terror House recent book dropped on Friday. Hit #1 on Amazon's American Poetry section. What is Rini working on? What is his legacy? A bunch of incoherent Twitch streams with 9 viewers? They're not even his legacy. Remember, Twitch streams go away in 2 weeks. Argent is keeping his legacy alive on Davis Irini, the Supreme Sigma. Like, understand, I do this as a side hustle, as a hobby, because it's fun. It's a creative outlet. It's, you know, a social outlet even. I enjoy it. And I make a few bucks. People yesterday were very, very generous with donations. And thank you once again to everyone that donated. 2 in particular donated a great deal. But truly my thanks to everyone that gave even $1 last night. Truly my thanks to anyone that donates at all. But this is just like a goofy little side project to me. I mean, hell, if anything, the writing thing I'm working on right now is kind of a bigger project that I think might have more long, might be a little bit more fruitful. So he says there's a kind of parallel with the companies who think they'll be in charge after the revolution. The people think they'll either be the farmers supporting life or the elite political leaders. Yeah, no one imagines after the revolution they're going to be cleaning the toilets or lined up against the wall. Is there any video out there that recaps your falling out with Davis? No, because no one really, like, cared. Like, nobody gives a shit about me or Davis. So, I mean, you'd basically have to watch a whole bunch of streams to have watched it unfold. Somebody says, who do you think got hit harder by the Sarkeesian effect flopping, Davis or Jordan Owen? Originally, I would have said Jordan Owen. He really got it up the ass in that initially, but long term, like, Jordan Owen picked himself back up and is pretty much getting his life together. I mean, he's got issues. You know, I talked to him, and I mean, he's got personal life issues. We all do. Trust me. He doesn't have it any fucking worse than I do. That's for sure. Um, but he's getting his shit together. I mean, he's fucking supporting himself. He's fucking trying. He's not sitting around complaining how he should run society. I mean, 10 years from now, Jordan Owen is probably going to still be, still be getting up in the morning and making his way in the world, if not doing better. I don't think Davis will live to see 50. And I'm not even trying to be mean there. Like, I mean, his lungs and his liver are probably black enough they could be fucking a Kardashian sister at this point. And combine that with the fact that, like, it's just getting worse for Davis. Like, I mean, what the fuck's going to happen to him if his, mom and stepdad cut him off? Matt Forney says, I have my differences with Owen, but he's probably leading a productive life away from the internet, while Arini is desperately trying to squeeze blood from the online stone. I mean, Jordan Owen will put out videos still on his channel, but, I mean, his channel's nowhere near what it was during the, all the Gamergate heydays and all. I mean, he's basically down to my level of jack shit with viewers, but he doesn't care. It's just something he does once in a while. Is a little, he has a thought or an opinion on something, he feels like getting out. And Jordan Owen is also, and I don't think I'm like spilling any tea here. I don't think I'm betraying any personal confidence. And if you should hear this, Owen, if that is indeed what I'm doing, please forgive me. But Jordan Owen is taking an interest in spiritual things and moving in a direction towards Christianity. I don't know exactly where he is on that kind of journey, but he is definitely more open to Christianity. And good for him, Somebody says, Owen Terror House collab win. And Matt Forney says, Owen is welcome to submit to Terror House like everyone else. And then Matt Forney says, everyone should submit to Terror House. Well, Matt, are you going to publish the... Are you going to publish the sequel to As I Nurse My Broken Dong by Davis Rini? I'm not sure if you want to publish the rest of his Fallout fan fiction trilogy. So he says Jordan Owen has talked about his shift away from atheism on his channel. By the way, the other day, it might have been last night's stream, and might have been the stream before, and trust me, both those streams, more than a little captain involved. But I kept calling Owen Benjamin Jordan Owen, which was just a dumb slip of the tongue. Not even a Freudian slip. It's just, they got that common last/first name, so it just fucked up my head a little bit. That's right, Chad. Jordan Owen redemption arc. I never, even when that was going on, thought that, I never took a side in that, really. Early on, I thought Owen was mostly to blame for that. I thought it was like 60% Owen's fault. Whereas now, I'm down to thinking it was like 15% Owen's fault, roughly. I think Owen acted like a faggot during all that, and he wouldn't even argue with you on that. I also think that he was very clearly being gaslit into acting that way. Jordan Owen Benjamin. Yes, is it the Amalgam Universe version of both of them combined? Jordan Owen Benjamin would be forming an Ayn Rand libertarian compound in the woods. But instead of no jacking off, it would be jacking off is required at least once a day. Because he wants you to have a clear head. But no, Jordan Owen's doing all right. He's getting there. And again, I don't, nobody knows. I mean, any one of us could be dead tomorrow. But I would highly doubt it. Davis is lasting another decade the way he's going.
Well, what do we do? Just let the left continue to
let
to
them
cannibalize society?
Yep. They've got about 18 months left, as I figure it.
That's when the groceries run out.
Oh, I think they run out slightly before that. Quintus.
Any minute now, society will completely collapse, and then you'll all be sorry you didn't join the free folk.
Courteous tweeted something out. Let me just find that. I want to read what he actually said.
While you're looking for that, I heard something interesting today. That Attorney General Barr is delaying the prosecutions, the federal prosecutions, until after the November election. Now, I find that very curious and kind of disconcerting, because if Trump does not win in November, it's going to be a nothing, you know?
Quintus Curtius.
Trump's going to win, by the way. I am not as certain of Trump's victory as I was in 2016, but I would still put money down on it.
He tweeted out a rather dark picture. Something baboon it was called. I forget the exact.
There's a comment on Davis's stream. I don't know if he'll address it. But let me go screen share for a second, because I'll show it to y'all. Like, some of the comments pop up on it. You can't really see it that well, but it says, "We can't ban porn, but how do we combat it? We can't just let the cock indoctrination continue." I mean, well, first of all, I'm just gonna throw this out there. I don't know if he knew this, but what's your name there, buddy? L. Lloyd God King Secret. Well, I don't know. But sir, I don't know if you knew this, but there are genres of pornography outside of cuckold pornography. Yeah, that may indeed be what you preferred when you wandered over to Pornhub. But there are many other genres out there. That said, though, I'm not going to sit here and argue that porn's good for you. And there's probably way too much of it out there, and there's probably a lot of weird niches of it, and it's just not good for you. That said, though, if you want to quote-unquote combat it, I would say that a single Wood Rocket video does more to combat porn than a million cringy no-fap memes about keeping your masculine energy. Like, we watched Wood Rocket on here a couple years ago, really, and Bryden recently watched him over on DLive, and those are the videos where they talk about how they're constantly, like, shitting on each other during porn scenes, or like a woman was on her period, so they shove a makeup sponge up her vag to keep her from bleeding, and then she accidentally left it up there and it got all septic and shit and she almost died. Like, those are the horror stories behind the scenes on porn. And you know, you see a porn, and if it's a well-made porn, you know, the cinematography and lighting is just on point, and that girl has just the right amount of makeup, and it's two fucking, you know, beautiful, attractive people having wild fucking acrobatic sex, and it's fucking awesome, right? It's like, wow, that looks amazing. I love that. But that once you scrape a little bit past the surface, you sort of Argent just messaged me. Owen Benjamin and Arini would be the greatest anime crossover ever. Yes, indeed. But anyways, once you scrape a little past the surface, you realize that, you know, it's kind of all gross behind the scenes. So he says it'll be here long after all of us die, but it gets old, the porn, after a while. Oh yeah, porn's never going away. Okay, trust me. When our ancestors first started drawing on the cave wall, you know, one of the first things we started drawing was titties. Like, you're never going to not have porn. It's just you need that. You need it to just not be quite so accessible. You need it to just not be quite so just everywhere, you know? Oh, I just realized somebody in the chat is named Jet Jaguar. Which is a reference I get now, having consumed a ton of Godzilla media lately. Like, just fucking tons of Godzilla shit lately. Yeah, I have been on quite the Godzilla kick. There's a little bit of started out as research for a writing project I'm working on, and then kind of I was like, you know, this is actually kind of fucking cool.
But he said, he tweets, "My mood of late has inclined towards ghastly and apocalyptic visions. Hence, Sunset Baboon." That was that painting, Sunset Baboon. "May he not be a harbinger of anything beyond my own turbulent thoughts." And I just replied back to him, "I think we all know what's coming."
The collapse is going to come, and then Davis Aridi will be.
I think we
in
know
charge.
what is coming.
Are you all ready for the collapse, Davis? In your shitty little apartment? Like, where are you going to get your cigarettes at? Because, I mean, we all know you can't go... You couldn't go 6 hours without absolutely losing your fucking mind without cigarettes. So where are you going to get your smokes at, Davis? I mean, if Law and Order absolutely collapsed, you know, you've made a lot of fucking enemies. I mean, there are people... There are people in your community, Davis, who would shoot you on sight if Law and Order collapsed. If not actively hunt you. You know this, and I know this. So are you ready, Davis? Are you ready for the collapse? The collapse is coming. It's coming 18 months from now, folks. The collapse is coming. And Davis, then we'll all be sorry we laughed at Davis Aridi. We will then all be sorry we laughed at Davis, Michael Jackson Arini.
What's coming? Enlighten us.
Well, they've already done in some places in the U.S. There's going to be a hard shutdown, another COVID shutdown in September or October. It's all, guys, the numbers are mostly made up. All right. Yes, it's kind of a nasty flu. Yes, if you have a history of blood troubles, then you should worry about it. Be cautious. But no, there's no reason for a shutdown, but they're going to shut down anyway. That's just what they're going to do. Then I think in December, there's going to be a little bit of evidence for it. You're going to see a couple of alternative media talk about it, and then it'll be hushed up. Then a real plague is going to show up in December. And because they spent all their energy fighting this fake plague, fighting this slightly nasty flu, they're not going to have any ability to fight.
So he knows. Is this like a vague prediction, or is he actually saying, yeah, a real plague will happen on December? Like, Davis, stop writing fucking fan fiction about how you're going to save the West and get a fucking job.
Be like
Real
crying
plague.
wolf.
Exactly. It's nobody's going to take it seriously. Nobody's going to trust the government, and actually that's the big thing. All right, it's as much as I make fun of you for trusting, not you, but make fun of people for trusting the government. I know that the cops don't show up to prosecute property crimes against guys like me. Right? The same thing. If somebody broke into your house, hey, Thrim, the cops, they might file a report if you were lucky.
Right.
We know that. Thank God that most of these idiots don't. Because most of these idiots only follow the law because they're afraid that somebody will hit them with a stick if they get caught breaking it. So even like the currency is worthless, but people think it's worth something, so it's worth something. Right? And
Let's be real. I know that's like the oh, I'm so big brain. They're just pieces of paper, man. Nothing's worth anything. Let's be real. There's no such thing as objective worth to a physical thing. There's not. I mean, you may indeed believe there are spiritual worth to things like people or even animals, because they have spirits. Spiritual worth to nature because, it's God's creation, that sort of thing. But no physical thing has objective worth. This cell phone right here is worth a lot of money most of the time. It's worth a lot most of the time. Most situations, to most people, this is worth a lot. That's not objective worth. Nothing has objective worth. So, yeah, I realize the fiat currency has issues and all. But, it's like, I'm big brain. I know that these are just pieces of paper, man. Isn't it weird? We spend our life chasing these pieces of paper. Yes, that's a very big brain take. Okay? The reality is no physical thing has objective worth. Okay? And there's a simple example for that. If I have, a box full of gold coins, and you have a box full of canned peaches, which one of us is richer? Well, if we're on a desert island, it's the guy with the canned peaches. So he says it's almost as if the utility of things is why it has value to people. Who knew? Shit. Value on physical things is a projected thing. All right?
People doing what the government says during a pandemic, believing the media, believing the government, even if 90% of what the government says is worthless and only 10% of it actually keeps you safe, if everybody did that, well, it's 10% better than nothing. This time around, nobody believes anything anymore.
Well, the problem we have here, at least in my state, I can't speak for other states, it's the businesses. What they're doing is the health departments are implementing policies that they're requiring the businesses to abide by, and they're threatening those businesses with either terminating their operating licenses or levying fines against them. So it's the businesses that have become the draconian arm of these leftists that have been put in the health departments. And that's where it's happening. So, for example, you can't enter a restaurant or a grocery store. Well, here in Pennsylvania, you can't enter any business establishment.
Actually, what's going on in PA is really interesting because at this point, the legislature and the police, almost entirely across the state, the police, have declared they're not enforcing this shit anymore. The governor, he's acting like Governor Tom Wolf is it's like Saddam Hussein in his little spider hole. Like, I'm still in charge. Like, no, you're not. The governor is still like, well, I don't know. I might have to close more stuff down. And the businesses are largely going along with it just because, they'd rather be safe than sorry, And certainly the corporate-owned businesses are. But a lot of the more mom-and-pop kind of businesses, they don't give a fuck. Like, the gas station right by my house, independent owned. It's, two Indian guys owning it. It's not a chain or anything like that. The people in there, the employees are quote unquote wearing masks most of the time on their fucking chins, not on their face. Most of the people going in there don't have a fucking mask. Nobody says a thing. I go into the comic book store. Again, independent-owned business. And this is even old lefties. Oh, it's an old lefty that fucking owns this. Old fucking Bernie bro goddamn hippie lefty that owns this place. Half time he's not wearing a mask. And he doesn't care if anybody else in the store is. So a lot of people just aren't going along with it. And what is, you could say, dangerous, you could say interesting, is it's sort of exposing the impotence of the government to enforce things if nobody is fucking paying attention to it. Napoleon in the chat. Houses are like made of wood, man. You can find wood in the forest for free. Exactly. He says nobody wears a mask at the gym I go to. Forney says Albania passed an indoor mask law a few days ago and nobody is following or enforcing it. Went to the supermarket earlier today and not even the staff are wearing them. I mean, it's basically how it is, man. Nobody's going along with this shit. Oh, all right. Well, that's about as much as a fucking Hadron and Davis I can get through on the setting. They are kind of boring. Ugh. Oh, fuck. Neck is killing me. Alright, folks. If you enjoy the content I put out, do consider supporting the show. You can get the PayPal, Patreon. Now Patreon. I used to say PayPal, Patreon, and Amazon wishlist. But no, I guess I still have the Amazon wishlist. I haven't really updated it in like fucking forever. If you want to support the show, paypal.me/thebetcloth. Or you can hit Streamlabs /thebetcloth and you can donate. And even when I'm not live, if you donate when I'm not live, I'll see it when I am live and I'll go ahead and read it. And yeah, that's about it for right now.